This is how many grains of sand there are estimated to be on the entire planet Earth. This is how many trees there are estimated to be on the planet Earth. This is how many species of birds there are estimated to be on the planet Earth. This is how many species in general there are estimated to be. And this is the number if you include all of the little microbes and little tiny things. This is how many stars there are estimated to be in the entire universe. Usually whenever we see big numbers like this, we think of just how amazing and big they are. But today, I have a much simpler question. How do we even pronounce them? I mean, look at all of these zeros. Now, normally people know 1,000, a million, a billion, and when it comes to bigger numbers, people will just say a million, billion, trillion, or something like that. But those bigger numbers have names of their own. And while it's not necessarily important to know, if you're a nerd like me, you probably want to know what the names of those bigger numbers are. So, let me show you the trick to remember. So first of all, we have to look at the anatomy of large numbers. Most of the time, large numbers are written with commas, placed every 3 zeros, or every 3 digits. That's important. We count every group of those 3 digits. However, there are a couple of things to keep in mind before counting. The very first few numbers don't count before that first comma. There may be 2, there may be only 1, but even if there are 3 digits, that first group of digits do not count. So don't even count those. And then after the first comma, the first group doesn't count, but it kind of does. The way we'll get around that is we'll start with 0. Whenever we count after the first comma, we start counting with 0. So start from there and then count 0, 1, 2, 3, however many groups of 3 zeros or digits there are after that first comma. Now, the tricky part is whatever number you have, in order to get to the illion name of the number, you have to find out what the name of that number is in Latin. Now, I know that sounds scary. I know that sounds a little bit hard. However, it might be easier than you think. And if you don't get it right the first time, that's okay. I'll also put a little card at the end of this video that you can take a screenshot of to remind yourself all the lessons we learned in this video. If the number that you get is 0, one group of 3 digits after the first comma, then of course that's 1,000. If the number that you get is 1, if there's 2 groups of zeros after the first comma, then that is 1,000,000. So those first 2 we kind of have to memorize. We don't really use the number yet. However, after that, if you have 3 groups, that is, you've counted 0, 1, 2, you have to think of something that has 2 of something that is named in Latin, which you might not know what that is, but I'll give you an example. A bicycle has 2 wheels, so therefore, bi is billion. It's simple enough. So if you count 3, then think of something that has 3. So we just did a bicycle, let's say a tricycle. That is, tri, of course, is the Latin word. It's pretty easy so far, is the Latin word for 3. So that's a trillion. And then if you go to 4, the common word that we use in everyday language is a quarter. That's 1/4. That's from Latin too. So therefore, the name for the number in that case would be a quadrillion. Then, what is the Latin word for 5? The thing that comes to my mind is if someone has 5 children all at once, they call those quintuplets. So therefore, that would be a quintillion. If you go to 6, then that one's pretty simple. You just trade the E for an I and ignore the dirty jokes, and that's a sextillion. 7 is maybe a little bit harder. The thing that I think of is in the movie Finding Dory, the octopus character actually only had 7 arms, so Dory called him a septopus. Sept, and it kind of sounds like 7. You just have to put it, and also the month September, which that's a little confusing because there used to be 10 months in the year, and then they changed it to 12, so September actually is supposed to be the 7th month, but today it's the 9th month. We just kept the name. Anyway, septillion is 7. And then the next one is pretty easy, because I just said it. If you count 8, then that's an octillion. So think of an octagon, like a stop sign, has 8 sides, oct. I think everybody knows that one. That's octillion. The next one is a little bit harder, because I can't think of any good examples, but the Latin word for 9 is sometimes non. So that's a nonillion. I suppose that one can be easy to remember because it kind of sounds like 9. You just put an O in there instead of an I. So nonillion. And then finally we get to 10, and that is a decillion, which that one's kind of easy to remember because things that have to do with the number 10 that we might use is a decade, which we often use for 10 years, dec. It's a C, so it could be a K sound or an S sound. After that, it gets a little bit more complicated. You use un for the number 1, so you add 1 to that, so therefore 11 would be undecillion. And then you go to 2, in this case, it's not bi, it's duo, which we hear sometimes. That's also from Latin, I guess. So if we count up to 12, then that's a duodecillion. And then I'll just name them off from there. I'll have them in the card, but you have tredecillion, quatuordecillion, that one's hard to say, quindecillion, we're up to 15 now. 16 is sexdecillion, 17 is septindecillion, 18 is octodecillion, and then 19, another word for 9 is nov. That's where we get the name of the month November. Again, it used to mean 9, and now it's the 11th month, but originally it's from 9. 19 is novemdecillion, and then vigintillion. Now that one's harder, but vi is another way of saying bi with a V instead, and then gin is another way of saying 10, so it's 2 tens, vigintillion. And then from there, you kind of use the same rule, you just add 1, 2, 3, and then I think 30 is tregentillion. And then I'd have to look up the others, but the rest of them will be in the link. And we're getting to pretty big numbers that we might not ever really use, but sometimes we will. The last number, actually, I'll name 2 more numbers. If you get up to 100, so that's different from a Google, 100 groups of 3 digits after the first comma, starting with 0 as you count, that would be a centillion. C-E-N, like in century is the Latin word, cent is the word for 100, like cents in a dollar. And then the last one that I'll name in this video anyway, the Latin word for 1,000 is a mil, which is actually the word that we use for a million, which is not 1,000, it's 1,000 thousands, but that's the word that we used. But, so technically, if you had a number that had 1,000 groups of 3 digits, starting with 0, counting after the first comma, then you could call that a millennium. So that's like a really, really, really big number. Let's use some of the examples in the intro of this video. So the grains of sand on the planet Earth, the estimate for that is a 7, followed by a comma, and then a 5. We can start from either end. We can start after the 7, that first comma, or we can start back here and just go up to the comma. You can count either way is easier for you. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So therefore, this is 7 quintillion. And then if we wanted to go on, it would be 7 quintillion, 500 quadrillion. Because again, after that one is 4, if you want to name the whole number like that. Okay, and what about the trees? Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 3 quadrillion. And then if you wanted to go on, that would be 3 quadrillion, 40 trillion. That's the number of trees estimated to be on the Earth. Okay, and what about the number of stars? So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So therefore, the number of stars estimated to be in the entire observable universe is 200 sextillion. Okay, now let's do the species. So here we have birds. Again, this one's easy, but we'll do it anyway just to show them how the process works. So we only have one thing of zeros after the first comma, but again, remember, we start with 0. So that's just 11,000. Again, very easy, but that's why we start with 0. 0 means 1,000, not literally, but in the system we're using, that's what it stands in for. And then the next one, let's see, we have 0, 1. So therefore, the 1 also doesn't mean 1 in Latin. It's just a million, so the first 2 are kind of sneaky. So therefore, it's 8,750,000. And then finally, we have the total number of species, which in that case is 0, 1, 2, 3. So therefore, that's 1 trillion species estimated to exist on the planet Earth currently. Well, now you know how to impress your friends by looking at big numbers and silently counting them to yourself and telling them how they're pronounced, except don't use that to try to impress them or be arrogant. I'm sure your friends know just how amazing you are. You are just as amazing as they are. If you have made it to the end of this video, I thank you for watching, and I ask that you consider supporting me on Patreon or maybe becoming a YouTube member once my YouTube channel gets big enough for all of that, and or wherever else you may find support in the description in the future, so that every bit that you help me with helps me to up the quality of my videos, to do the stuff that I plan to do with my YouTube channel, and any help that you can provide helps me to do what I love. This is how many genetically unique humans there is, and this is how many genetically unique humans it is possible, it is estimated to be possible, let's try that again, if you include all of the little microbes and little tiny things, all those species on the Earth. Yeah, he thinks it's ridiculous too. sickle, which is from Latin, kind of. This isn't a language lesson, so I'm not going to get into that, and I don't remember what sickle means, but I think cycle means, well, I guess it means a cycle. And I'm going to pay attention while I am crossing the little crosswalk here. I'm technically not crossing on the crosswalk, it's over there, but this is another path that doesn't. They didn't put a crosswalk here for some reason, but bicycles and stuff go here. And I might have to go around here because they're doing work on the path up ahead, which in that case is, I don't know if I can go over here because they're doing a lot of work again. And that's about it for this video. Yeah, thanks for watching. I still don't know how to end videos properly. Have an amazing day and an amazing life.